it forward, and I'm going to take it to A63 to our producer, so that's where we're headed. Ace Bailey, the former Rutgers forward, was drafted by the Jazz with the 5th overall pick in the draft, despite reportedly not wanting to play for the team and having declined to work out for them before the draft. He had a pre-draft process where he refused to work out for any teams, leading to speculation about his preferred landing spots, with some reports suggesting he favored the Washington Wizards, Brooklyn Nets, or New Orleans Pelicans. Here's Bailey on going to Utah.
Ace, there was a lot of speculation, the buildup in your draft process. You know, you seem pretty happy to me to be going to Utah. What do you say to people that maybe just don't believe that?
I mean, I control what I control, so how they feel. But to my team and me, me focusing on the basketball and them doing what they're doing, so it happens.
Bontemps, starting with you. What'd you make of Bailey going to Utah?
I mean, look, this was the fascinating moment in the draft. I mean, Chom's obviously all over all this stuff. The top 4 picks were pretty well set. The question all day going into the draft was, what was Utah going to do with the 5th selection? Austin Ainge running his first draft with the Jazz. Nobody really could get a sense of what they were going to do. They go take Ace Bailey. This is not what Ace Bailey's people thought they were going to do. They thought they were going to Washington. They were all set up to be on the East Coast. He's a guy who was born in Atlanta. He's from the Southeast. The Wizards had a big hole in the wing. He thought he was going there. I think, though, this could wind up being the best thing that ever happened to Ace Bailey. Will Hardy is one of the best coaches in the league. They've got a terrific organization from top to bottom. They've got a bunch of playing time and shot opportunities for him on the wing. This is a chance for him to go to a low-pressure environment, to grow, to get a chance to get as much as he wants to eat offensively. And we could look back on this a few years from now and say that this was a great setup for him and a great setup for the Jazz, and applaud the Jazz on taking a swing on a guy who didn't give them an opportunity to really get to see him up close and saying, this is the best player available. We're going to go get him. We're not going to worry about whether he wants to be here or not.
Shams?
So going into draft night, everyone around Ace Bailey knew he was going to go between 3 and 8 in this draft. And they were comfortable. They were fine with how they handled the process as long as he ended up around in that 3 to 8, which they were very confident in. And they didn't really care, I think, at the end of the day, where he potentially ended up, because he's playing basketball and he's going to be on a team. I think the Jazz, between him and Walter Clayton Jr., to get those 2 players, I talked to someone in Utah last night, shot making, competitiveness, creativity, they got 2 players at the wing/forward position that can really help them.
MacMahon?
Look, and look, if you're Utah, who cares if he wants to be there? What are you going to do? You're not going to take the paycheck. You're not going to play in the NBA. And, you know, Ace Bailey just said a whole lot of nothing, but he's not pouting. He's going to be a pro. He's going to go play for the Jazz. And if you're Utah, this is your 3rd straight year in the lottery. None of the previous guys that you've gotten in these last couple drafts have flash star potential. You have to take a swing at the highest ceiling guy on the board. This is a team that is in desperate need of a young star that they can build around. Ace Bailey has that kind of potential. There's some risk involved, but there's also high reward here.
Keith?
I'm going to go with Tim on this one, right? You bring him in for a workout, you're just going to see the star power that he has, right? You don't really need to watch this guy work out. He tried to control the draft process, well, his people did, but Utah took a swing on which was perfect. He has star potential. I watched this guy at Rutgers. His shot-making ability is second to none, especially better than everybody's in this draft. Like, he is an elite scorer. He has size. He still has a lot of potential to grow into his game. So, I mean, if I'm Utah, I'm doing the exact same thing. I'm not waiting on this guy. He was the best available player. I'm not waiting on somebody else to draft him when he's the best available player and we could get him right there.
Well, this is a Utah team that also went into the draft lottery hoping to jump up to one of the top couple spots. They end up falling all the way to 5th, and now they get a guy who was a consensus top 3 pick all year. So it's a great landing spot for them to get a guy who is that talented. And also, to Shams' point, I love Walter Clayton. I think he's got a chance to be a Jalen Brunson type guy going forward. Guy who won a national championship, was a great leader at Florida, incredible offensive production for them. And for a team that really needed scoring and production on the wing, like you said, I love the fit of Clayton there going forward for the Jazz.
I will say this is not the first time a player and his representatives or anyone has tried to control the draft process.
Yeah.
And they very well know if a team is drafting you, you're going there anyway. Doesn't really matter.
Absolutely. All right, Keith, coming to you on this with a player perspective. Round 1 in the books. Tell me, who was the biggest winner last night?
I would say Utah, right? To be able to get a guy like that, be able to get two of those guys in the first round. I would say they are. I was leaning towards Dallas, but everybody knew what Dallas was going to do, and they won, of course. But I would say Utah to get a player like Ace Bailey. I watched this guy, man. His scoring ability is second to none. He was arguably the best scorer in the NCAA last year, and I didn't think, and nobody thought that they were going to have a chance to get him. So I would say Utah, and again, Clayton, a guy that's known as a winner, went into Florida and helped them win a national championship right there. So it's two guys that could potentially turn this organization around, and they have some other pieces to put around them.
The biggest winner in this draft is the state of Texas, partners. And look, the Mavericks and the Spurs, you knew they were winning the draft when the lottery results came out. The Mavericks, 1.8% chance. They shoot right on up there. They get a generational talent when they really needed that to rally the fan base, if nothing else. Dylan Harper to the Spurs, plus another lottery pick, continue to build around Victor Wembanyama. And then that Houston team, a 2 seed, tough defensively, dominant rebounding, desperately needed a go-to guy, used that number 10 overall pick to flip into Kevin Durant. The state of Texas, biggest winner in the draft.
Of course, MacMahon likes Texas, but I'm going with the Atlanta Hawks. On Monday, or earlier this week, the Hawks go get Kristaps Porzingis, a terrific fit for their team, add shooting. They get rid of Terrence Mann's deal that only cost them the 22nd pick. Then they go into the draft last night. They turn the 13th pick into the 23rd pick, get Asa Newell, a guy who could have been a lottery pick, played with Cooper Flagg in high school at Montverde. Really interesting combo big for them. And most importantly, they get what could be the number 1 pick in next year's draft for going back 10 slots, doing this trade with the New Orleans Pelicans, getting the better pick between the Milwaukee Bucks. Let's see what happens with the Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo this offseason. And most importantly, the Pelicans, a team that I talked to a bunch of people overnight. Pelicans are seen as a team that's not going to make the playoffs in the West and could be one of the worst teams in the West next year, and they now have an unprotected potential lottery pick for just going back a few slots in the draft. Atlanta's got a bunch of young guys. Porzingis is a great fit there. You look at the way they've gotten better over the last week. Atlanta's going to be an interesting team to watch in the Eastern Conference next year, especially after these Achilles injuries we've seen. And on top of it, they now potentially make up for trading away their prior first-round picks in the DeJounte Murray deal.
Back in the mix there. But you mentioned Porzingis, and Shams, I want to come to you on Boston, hearing a lot about Jaylen Brown. How close was he to being traded last night?
Not close.
Okay.
The phone lines are ringing in Boston, I'm told, but they have a very high price threshold, is my understanding around the league, for guys like Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Listen, if an offer blows them out of the water, they're going to have to consider it. But their job, for the most part, got done this week. They got $180 million saved off their taxes by trading Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis away. They're out of the second apron. And so now for the Celtics, it's sit back. You see what comes your way, potentially. But if this is the team they're rolling with, they can roll with it. 2 other names, Sam Hauser, Anthony Simons. They're going to get calls on those 2 players as well and see, can we get even closer to out of the luxury tax? But not close last night, Molly.
Keith, if you're Boston, what are you doing right now?
That's a tough one. I'm definitely not trading Jaylen Brown, and I'm definitely not trading Jaylen Brown. That's out of the picture, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to continue. If I can shed some more salary, I might get off of Hauser. I'm going to keep Wright, and I'm going to just bring players in that fit this team and get a great look at what it's going to look like in 2026 when Jason Tatum come back. I'm expecting a big season from Brown. MVP conversations, most improved. I'm looking at that for him, being able to still grow as a number one player. And yeah, like I said, taking a looks at the players that I'm getting in for shedding these contracts and trying to make a team that's going to compete for a title when Jason Tatum come back in 2026.
Yeah, look, unfortunately, this is a gap year for the Celtics because Tatum's missing most, if not all, of next season. So, yeah, you might look to trim some more salary. But dumping Jaylen Brown, there was so much talk about breaking up the Brown-Tatum duo for years, which was always silly. Then they win a championship. This is a proven championship duo. They've done it before. They can do it again. There's no reason for the Celtics to be looking to trade Jaylen Brown, and certainly that hasn't been the case. Their phone ringing does not mean that they're looking to trade him.
Well, and to Shabs' point, the Celtics got their business done by moving off Jrue Holiday and moving Kristaps Porzingis and saving $250 million in payroll and luxury taxes this week, right? That was what they needed to do. They needed to get out of the second apron. They needed to get to a more feasible financial position with their new ownership group coming in next month. Now they don't have to make a move like that with Derek White. They don't have to make a move like that with Jaylen Brown. And as they go forward, they can make moves that are basketball driven. Brad Stevens last night said they've got a core with those guys, with Peyton Pritchard, with Sam Hauser, that they believe can be right back in the mix in the Eastern Conference going forward. He talked about Jaylen Brown, who had meniscus surgery this offseason, and Jason Tatum being in the facility working out. Like, this is a team that, yes, they have a gap year most likely this year with Tatum out, but the Celtics believe with those two guys and with Derek White, they've got the core of what is a championship-level team, and now it's a matter of what can they do to build around them going forward with what is going to be a new iteration of this team after they move on from Porzingis and Holiday this week.
Shams?
Yeah, they got their business done. So we'll see what else comes up. I mean, listen, their phone lines are continuing to ring. Teams are going to continue to call, continue to make offers on both Jaylen Brown and Derek White.
Rockets guard Fred VanVleet intends to sign a 2-year, $50 million contract to stay with the franchise with a player option in 26-27, sources telling ESPN. The Rockets roster recently bolstered by the blockbuster trade for 15-time All-Star Kevin Durant. Keith, how good will KD and Thompson, that duo, be?
It would be pretty good. You know, obviously, you know what you're going to get from KD. I mean, you can mark down 27 points per game, 6 rebounds, 5 assists. I mean, Thompson, he's going to continue to be able to grow, right? I'm high on Thompson and his brother because in 2 years, these guys are showing that they're going to be elite players in this league. So I'm super high on them. But I would think the duo would be more of a Sengun KD, right? Sengun had his coming out party last year. He was an all-star last year. Played a big role in them being the number 2 seed. So if you're looking at me, I'm saying the KD and the Sengun duo is a top 10 duo and is going to make them better.
MacMahon?
Yeah, I think Amin Thompson is their best young player. He's not their best young offensive player, but we're talking about a dominant defense player, one of the top wing defenders in the league, just a force in transition. I do think he's their second best player on this team. I think it's a top 10 type of duo, but this is about KD and the Rockets' depth, not necessarily about a duo.
Bontemps?
Well, look, yeah, I was going to say, to me, this is less about the Rockets duo than the Rockets team. And to me, the Rockets team is the second best team in the West and a team that can go toe-to-toe with Oklahoma City last year. What was the biggest question in Houston last year? Why did they lose to Golden State? Their offense wasn't good enough. They just replaced Jalen Green with Kevin Durant. And yes, Kevin Durant's 37. He still averaged 27 last year, as Markieff said, on 50% shooting from the field, 40% shooting from 3, and 85% shooting from the free throw line. He is still an elite offensive player, an elite offensive scorer, and you put him on a team with all these young defenders around him, he can just slot in and score. It's the one team I thought of all the teams that were discussed that was a perfect fit for Durant to go to. I thought it was the one place where he could go and really have a chance to win big. And personally, I am rooting for a Rockets-Thunder conference finals next year and KD going back to Oklahoma City. That would be pretty awesome theater.
Certainly would. All right, Houston toe-to-toe with OKC. We're coming back to that sentiment in just a bit. But, Shams, I want to come to you on this. How excited was KD about playing with this team and this roster?
Excited. The goal right now for Kevin Durant and the Rockets is for him to retire in Houston. They're going to eventually this offseason discuss a contract extension, figure out where that lands. But throughout the process, it became the finalists between Miami and Houston. But the Rockets really excited Kevin Durant. I'm told players like Alperen Sengun, Amen Thompson, Tari Eason, Jabari Smith, Reed Shepherd. I think Kevin Durant really views himself here. It's a perfect fit in a lot of ways. We know he's a number one. He can be the number one option on any given night. The Rockets made this move. It's a win now trajectory type of move.
Very interesting. Okay, so if he's to finish his career in Houston, Keith, what would be a successful stint? How far does he need to take this team?
I think he's going to finish his year there. I mean, him and Epe Duko have a great relationship. They was together in Brooklyn. They was together in USA. Winning the championship. I mean, disappointment will be a first-round exit. You know, I mean, obviously you can't say they're going to win, but just competing for a championship, getting the Western Conference Finals, getting to the finals. I think that's the ceiling for this team.
MacMahon?
Yeah, you bring KD in to elevate the potential of this team to a championship caliber. And look, this year they've at least got to make a step. They've at least got to get out of the first round, get in the second round, preferably conference finals. But you're looking at a 3-year window here with a ton of ascending talent around him. They don't trade for Kevin Durant unless they think that he gives them legitimate championship aspirations.
Keith, what kind of leader do you think the Rockets need KD to be? Because that's been in question quite a bit for him as he's moved around the league. And obviously, this is a young team.
I would probably say more of a vocal leader, right? Because he does all the right things off the court. I've watched this guy, one of the hardest workers I've seen, right? So he's the leading by example is going to be super easy to him. It has been easy to him. It's just more of a vocal leader, right? More of having guys look at you talk, more of having guys telling the guys what they need to do to be better and to win games, right? I think he tends to lead that up to the coaches. I think now is the perfect time to be able to step in as a vocal leader and show that you're a leader of this team.
That's part of why I love this fit for Kevin Durant and the Rockets is they don't need him to do that. They've got Ime Udoka, who certainly has no problem going at his players and getting them to do what he wants them to do. And they've got Fred VanVleet, who he just worked with the team on a really favorable contract going forward for the next couple of years. Shams reported that earlier this week, sign a 1+1 deal with the Rockets to stay there. He is a guy who is a tremendous leader, helped win a title with the Raptors. Those are the guys that are leading the Rockets going forward. Kevin Durant has just got to walk in and hoop and score buckets, and he does that as well as anybody. The fit is perfect all around for him, and I really like how it sets up.
Keith, why not?
I don't like how that sounds because players are the most important thing leading the team, right? Yeah, you can have a coach say but so much, but when it comes to a player that's in the locker room, yeah, VanVleet is a good leader. He's been on good teams, but it has to come from Durant, right? It has to be that guy because he's the best player on this team with a bunch of young players. Yeah, the coach can only say but so much to these guys, but he's not in the locker room with these guys, and that's the thing that where I say vocal, where it needs to be in the locker room, leading that way.
MacMahon?
Listen, Kevin Durant's Twitter bio says, I do me and I chill. That's all the Rockets need from him. They do not need rah-rah speeches from Kevin Durant. This is not a team that needs to change its culture. It has done a massive, successful cultural transformation over these last few years, starting with the hiring of Ime Udoka, the signing of Fred VanVleet. By the way, Steven Adams, another vet there who's won a lot, whose voice resonates when he wants to use it. This is not a team that has a leadership void. This is a team that has a phenomenal culture. They're tough. They're nasty. They need freaking buckets, and Kevin Durant can supply those in bunches. That's all he has to do in Houston.
A vocal leader is not a rah-rah guy.
What is it? Go ahead, Keith.
It's not a rah-rah guy. It's a guy that just does all the small things. He has to take the Kyrie approach. Kyrie is a leader without being a rah-rah guy. He leads more with his voice than actually leading on the court. Kevin Durant is a guy that leads by example. All I'm saying is taking a step to be a more vocal leader. That's all I'm saying, not a rah-rah guy. He's not me. I'm a rah-rah guy.
We need you here in studio today, Keith. Go ahead, Chuck.
When I do talk to players that play under Ime Udoka, whether it's in Boston or Houston, they say, listen, Ime Udoka is a presence. He's a leader. Like, he has an impact there. The Kevin Durant-Ime Udoka relationship, it's a strong one. They had shared history with the Nets, with Team USA. So that relationship is going to be very important. Maybe Ime Udoka.
Does it take the pressure off KD to some extent, too, to what we're talking about?
To an extent, because that's just the personality Ime Udoka is. That's part of the reason why he got a massive new contract extension as well. And they do have the Steven Adams of the world. Fred VanVleet is also known around the league as that kind of a quiet leader, subtle leader for that organization. As far as on the court, though, Markieff already said it. We know what Kevin Durant is going to bring to the table. Around 25 points, 50, 40, 90. Amen Thompson, Alperen Sengun, to me, though, if this team is going to win a championship, what's their ceiling? How much can they grow and rise? Because if these two take the next step, then Kevin Durant, what he brings to the table, it's going to be exactly what they need.